What does the dance mean to the dancers? How do we measure the beliefs that set those feet in motion? What we believe about our past shapes our view of who we are as human beings and how we are capable of living. We can dream of a culture of harmony and peace in balance with nature, but has there ever been one? Archaeologist Marija Gimbutienės said, yes. She told a new origin story, that at the very beginning of Western civilization lay cultures that were long-lasting and peaceful. Marija Gimbutienės was born in Lithuania, a land tucked away in northeast Europe, where remnants of an ancient world still linger, passed down through families, like these potters whose art reflects the myths and songs that left an abiding impression on Marija. She was forced to flee the Soviet occupation of her homeland during World War II. Refugees throughout the war, Marija Gimbutienės and her family immigrated to the United States, where she became a world-renowned archaeologist whose scientific theories have sparked a great debate. Her theories are deep and complex, but simply put, they paint a new picture of the earliest layer of Western cultures. Long before written history began in Sumer in Egypt, settlements in the forest clearings and riverbanks of southeast Europe achieved a high level of culture and art. 8,000 years ago, in the Neolithic or New Stone Age, agriculture, pottery, weaving, and herding were already being practiced. The first farming communities where women and men lived showed no evidence of organized warfare. They left behind thousands of artifacts, a rich legacy of paintings, pottery sculptures, and figurines, all connected to goddesses and gods who are at the center of a rich religious life. The primordial deity for our ancestors was female, Marija wrote, a self-generating goddess, giver of life, wielder of death, and regeneratrix. She was the unity of all life in nature. Her power was in water and stone, in tomb and cave, in animals and birds, snakes and fish, hill, trees, and flowers.
She was there for millennia, and she was always sacred, because what our forefathers understood was sacred earth, living earth. Mother Earth figure is everywhere in European folklore to this day, and she is the metaphor of living earth, nothing else. I saw with my own eyes in these rather primitive corners of Lithuania when not only women, but also men were kissing earth in the morning. Also, the belief that Mother Earth is a lawgiver. You cannot deceive Earth. You must respect Earth, especially in the spring when she is pregnant. You cannot beat her. That was alive.
Marija traced a continuity of sacred earth symbols going back to the earliest human art. The Old Stone Age, with their vibrant images of animals and female forms.
The Paleolithic goddess was the creatrix. Her body parts like breast, belly, buttocks, vulva are the procreative parts of the body. And this shows that she is the creatrix. So I can speak in detail about the functions of the goddess, about the existence even not of one great goddess or great mother goddess, but about many types of goddesses.
These images are not portraits. They're not personified portraits. They're amalgams of animals and birds with female form. They have all these attributes that open your imagination.
She opened up the diversity of the Neolithic religious imagery. It's our language from 10,000 years ago, you know. This is how we understood the world. This is how we spoke about life. And if you don't like the term goddess because it comes out of classical Greek culture as a term or whatever, that's okay. But what this represents as part of our spiritual tradition of who we are is probably as old as human evolution.
In every culture, the symbolism and the metaphors and the myths that they create are their way of interacting with the great mythic drama that we all live in, which is the unfolding of the universe, the earth turning around the sun, the seasons changing, the elements rising, the tides, the rhythms of the moon. How shall we connect with this? How shall we create our cultural story? But she knew that the symbol system was central to the meaning of people's lives in these cultures.
Marija was the first scholar to bring together a comprehensive picture of this area she named Old Europe. Among its dozens of regional cultures, she found many similarities in symbolism, social structure, economy, and art. From their house sites, temples, and grave goods, Marija drew a picture of cooperative and peaceful societies, which lasted much longer than the empires that came later. To date, over 3,000 sites have been documented, and tens of thousands of miniature sculptures have been found, made of clay, marble, bone, copper, and gold.
I started excavations in 1967, continued to about 1980, and excavated in 4 places, mainly in Yugoslavia, Greece, Italy. All these excavations were important for my personal research because at that time I was discovering figurines myself. I discovered at least 500 sculptures. And it was not just sculptures, but the whole sequence of Neolithic culture starting from 6,500 BC up to the 4th millennium and even later. From the excavations, I was learning what I was reading in the books, and then I could prove by spade.
And so she really put old Europe on the map as a coherent concept, which was this wonderful flourishing of culture before the Bronze Age, when they had very well developed villages, when they did a lot of art, produced these figurines, when metallurgy was initiated.
The massive synthetic abilities of her mind to piece together chronologically hundreds and hundreds of sites and different cultures all over Europe and track their interrelationships and all of that is just massive.
She's pointing out a whole time here, and it's a time where everyone's roughly equal in rank. It's a female-centered culture, not male-dominated. It's relatively peaceful. People can live like that and still maintain a large village and an elaborate culture. Some of the Lake Kukateni things those villages had 15,000 people living in them.
Kukatini, Vincha, Sesklo. Our history books never told us these names. Perhaps because without kings, warfare, and conquest, they don't fit the classic definition of civilization.
We can clearly make a statement. Old Europe is a peaceful culture without weapons. And the whole archaeological record, starting from the Paleolithic times, from the cave art, there are no scenes of people fighting each other, no groups of people fighting each other, no single people.
Before what we think of as civilization, I was like everybody else. You know, civilization begins at Sumer, and it's always been warfare, and it's always been weapons, and it's always been kings and rulers, and somehow before that we were killer apes. You know, it was like straight from the killer apes to the killer guys, and you know, which is a very depressing view of history.
And so someone who tells us that there were civilizations that could be peaceful, this is very threatening to everything we've been taught. And it's not only threatening to the power of men in our society, but to the way in which we've accepted that militarism is necessary, that the way to resolve conflict, the only way is to have a standing army. So she's really asking us, is the way we're living the best way to live?
At first I thought, this is all fantasy. I could not imagine a time that was free from war. But after a lot of denial, and I began to carefully consider what she had written and examine her works more carefully, and it was like a deeply religious experience. To be swept out of one world and to be drawn into a much vaster and deeper sense of the universe.
She's describing a world in which people were very connected. They were connected to the life process. They were connected to the seasonal cycle. They were connected to the understanding that the sacred is in the earth. The connections then and the ritual objects that she found, which really had to do with the forces of nature. It isn't that nature and culture are separate, but that nature is part of culture, or culture is part of nature. And this is part of, certainly, the evidence from the Neolithic, what she calls Old Europe.
The Neolithic is the moment when the humans that moved, you know, the hunters, the gatherers, when they finally settled down,